Hello and welcome to Confrontation Points Video Snark. I read bad books so that you don't have to. I'm continuing my read-through of Breach by KI Lynn. Not the first video, go check out the others, links are posted below. Please be warned that this review contains adult material. I try my best to use metaphors and be vague, but sometimes you have to talk about a rooster. Chapter 12. The chapter opens with Delilah giving Nathan a key to her apartment. She says that her neighbors have been complaining that with all of their midnight rendezvous that it's creating a lot of noise. And, hold on. Hold the phone. This doesn't have to do with anything, but it was a nice spring day. The temperature is reaching into the mid-60s. Hey, the rest of the world, are y'all okay? You want to know what we call mid-60s? The middle of winter. But Nathan gives Delilah his key as well, which she uses often. The only thing on the walls were holes. He was up to 17, one more since yesterday. Hold up. This guy's getting so angry, he's literally punched now 10 more holes in the wall since we'd last counted. Do my lovely followers remember what I said previously about why wall hole punching should be a huge red flag? Girl, get the hell away from that psycho. She finds him on the patio, smoking a cigarette and literally just bouncing with angry energy. He complains that he doesn't like his feelings for Delilah, but that he likes Drew's presence around her even less. And again, I don't know what this guy even wants. He literally says he doesn't want Delilah, but in the same breath he says that he's jealous of whenever another guy so much as looks at her. However, they decide that working through things is for squares. Let's go get drunk. At the bar, they both continue to smoke. Andrew shows up and yells at Delilah because she'd struggled to quit. Andrew is also angry that Nathan is there, like he can somehow control the people that his ex-girlfriend hangs around. And part of me gets why he's angry. Nathan is clearly giving off bad vibes, especially if Andrew walks in on Delilah smoking again. But y'all ain't together anymore. You do not have the right to tell her who she can and can't hang out with. Actually, even if Drew and Delilah were actually married, he still wouldn't have any right to tell her who she can and can't hang out with. Get out of here with your toxic, masculine posturing. However, since Nathan is literally right there, this naturally leads to a huge fight between the two of them. Delilah tells him to knock it off and Nathan decides to leave. As soon as he's gone, Andrew calls Delilah out on why she's hanging out with the person that Office Rumor says she doesn't even like that much. Delilah justifies it with the fact that it's the closest bar to their apartment building and they just happen to run into each other. Delilah leaves to use the restroom, but Nathan grabs her and starts doing stuff to her right then and there. He says that he doubled back just to do this and plans to do it right there in the bathroom. And I apologize in advance for this, but when you go back out there, any guy who comes close will smell my baby batter on you. Ew. Anyway, Nathan himself finishes, but refuses to do anything to help Delilah. She tries to clean herself up, but there's no paper towels in the bathroom, so she does the best she can and goes back out to Andrew, because of course he's somehow still waiting for her. They make awkward small talk about how he's now working for the same law firm. I don't really care, but Delilah is feeling the effects of not being allowed to finish and just really wants to leave to take care of it. However, as she's leaving, Drew notices that she smells strongly of baby batter, which she tries to explain it away by saying that it's a gross, seedy dive bar, which, yeah, that checks out actually. The entire place probably smells, and it's not because of the spilled beer. Drew then randomly asks if she's the one who smells like this stuff, and that if the reason why she'd taken so long in the bathroom is because of that stuff. However, Delilah is not there for Drew's possessive behavior, especially since they're no longer together. She tells him to mind his own business before she leaves in a huff, which, yes, probably shouldn't have gone back to Drew, but whatever. She goes back to her building and decides to go tell Nathan how she really feels about his behavior back there. And I know that they have this casual thing going on between them, but honestly, if any dude did something like that to me, I'd end all and any contact then and there, because that's not cool. Who am I kidding? This is the girl who looks at 17 holes punched in wall and doesn't see that for the giant keep away sign that it is. Delilah has zero survival instincts and she's dumber than soup. Oh, but he's Rooster. Girl, shut up. Are you seriously going to ruin your life even more because you're getting some? Chapter 13. So Delilah confronts Nathan about him covering her in baby batter and then leaving her to deal with Drew at the bar. However, because this book is terrible and these people are miserable jerkwads who love to make everybody else miserable, Delilah decides that the best way to deal with Nathan is to make him jealous over the idea of her being with somebody else physically. However, this quickly turns into her calling him out on his nonsense. that he keeps complaining that he's upset and angry that she's pushing him past his comfort zone, but then he does keep on claiming stuff like back in the bathroom bar. Ethan kind of hints that there's something not quite right in his past, that a Harvard grad doesn't end up at a contract law firm in Indiana. He also says that if a vague they finds out about Delilah, then they'll hurt her to get to him. Not like Nathan's own behavior hasn't been a big red flag that Delilah actively chooses to ignore. Why isn't she more concerned over this? She literally has zero reaction, despite this being written in first person from her perspective. He continues on a tiny bit more and says that he used to work as a federal prosecutor. He doesn't go into details, so I'm reading in between the lines a bit here, but it seems as though he thought that he was safe when he started to get death threats, but he wasn't, and not even his apartment is under his own name because of whatever this threat is. And I get it. Long-time followers will know that I'm a huge fan of crime dramas. I've seen enough plots on various shows of judges and lawyers turning up dead when they tried to take on the wrong people. But being in constant fear of his life does not somehow give Nathan the right to act like an abusive asshole towards Delilah. However, this is quickly brushed aside. I guess Nathan hiding from whoever is after him is legit just not a big deal. The narration will probably, hopefully, circle back around to this, so I'm sure that this isn't the last of this. I hope. Instead, Nathan changes the topic and asks why it is that Delilah never seems to react towards anything, which is a fair question. I know that I'm talking a lot about how Nathan is so angry that he's constantly throwing and punching things, but the opposite end of the spectrum is a disturbing lack of reaction, like finding out that Nathan is on the run from God knows who. Nathan reads her like a book and asks if the reason why she did seem so devoid of emotion is because nobody had ever shown her any actual affection when she was growing up. Delilah finally gets upset over this, which is the first time that the narration has bothered to actually acknowledge her being there. Yes, despite this being written in first person, while Nathan was explaining about what had happened to him, he might as well have been talking to a doll. She gets upset and then starts physically attacking him when he brings up Drew. He asks that the real reason why Drew was with Delilah was because he thought that he could fix her. But in the end, it wasn't enough to fill the empty emotional void inside of Delilah, so the relationship fell apart. Delilah then explains that she was, I'm guessing, the end result of a one-night stand. But when her mother died unexpectedly, her father was forced to take care of a child. He never wanted her, and he made his opinion of her clear whenever he physically abused her by constantly telling her how worthless and unlovable that she was. And of course, there's an evil stepmother and an evil stepbrother, and as you can imagine, constantly being told that you're worthless and unlovable by the people who are supposed to protect you as a child, it leads to suicidal thoughts. Nathan did that. He made me feel what I hadn't ever felt before. Wanted, desired, beautiful, sexy. To him, I was all of those. Except from where I'm standing, literally the only thing Nathan has given Delilah are, as the French say, little deaths. If that was the only thing to give Delilah validation, why didn't she somehow find it with Drew? He made me start to think all I'd been led to believe was a lie. He was filling the void. How? How is he doing any of that? Because we've been inside of Delilah's head this entire time, and not once have I seen Nathan doing anything for her that Drew probably already did for her too. If the little deaths are the cure for low self-esteem, why hadn't she cured herself using her B.O.B.? You're dead inside, just like me. That's not true, I argued. You have very strong emotions, violent almost. Girl, you literally just attacked him when he called you out. Ethan tells her that he wishes that he was dead and goes into pretty depressing detail about how he wishes that the paramedics had been a few minutes later, or about how the defibrillator hadn't worked. Delilah then gets so violent over the idea of Nathan not being around anymore that she starts to attack him again. As I was saying, Nathan physically restrains her, which only just makes her fight back harder, but then he kisses her, because when somebody is so distraught that they become physically violent, the number one thing anybody should do is to try and kiss them. Chapter 14. So they start making out and declaring that the other is theirs. They bang. As they're doing this, Delilah literally tells him that the only thing that matters is his heart rather than his rooster. Like, I'm all for having conversations in bed, but this is honestly a little weird. She then demands to know why he matters, but he insists that he doesn't care. Delilah calls him out and then ties him up with his necktie as punishment for lying. And then she Oh dear lord. She then starts talking about all the places that Drew touched her when they were together, which I feel like normal people understand how sex with your ex works, but I kind of understand where Delilah is coming from considering that it's been such an issue with Nathan with this book. But this is so weird and creepy and just such a wrong way to go about getting somebody to own up to their mental issues. Nathan reacts pretty violently, but that's almost on brand for at this point. He starts fighting against his bonds and screaming that he's the only one who has ever touched her, which, dude, stop it. When we touched, it all clicked into place. He was my soulmate. What the She had gotten off of him when she'd gone to tie him up, and now she gets back onto him and starts to tease him. She tries to prompt him to admit his actual feelings for her. And this entire scene is just the worst thing ever. Like, legit, the absolute goddamn worst thing ever. She's using sex to emotionally manipulate him. I mean, Nathan isn't exactly a saint, but nobody deserves to be treated like this. This is emotional and psychological abuse. Holy motherforking shirt balls. They continue to bang after this, even though Nathan didn't exactly say anything, but Delilah keeps stopping and then starting up again. And I'm all for edging, but at this point this entire thing continues to reek of Delilah's emotional manipulations. She's not doing this because he's a consenting partner who enjoys that. She's doing it so that he won't leave her. At some point I think Nathan got free, and I'm kind of ticked off about what Delilah had been doing that I don't want to go back and read if he actually got free on his own, if this was ever actually mentioned, or if the tie just magically disappeared like I suspect that it did. And then... Stop writing adult backdoor scenes if you can't even write a 3-letter A word. I can't say it because I'm on YouTube, but there is literally no excuse for this. Look at this. Cool liquid hit the heated skin above my kitty, and his rooster popped out, sliding up the crack between my cheeks, wetting it. Not that it matters, because I'm going to fork your sweet donkey regardless. I need a YouTube-appropriate diagram for this. That'll do. So this is the area that came into my head when they said above the kitty. Like, the donkey is behind and under the kitty, not above. Yes, words have connotation to them. You can't just say whatever you feel like. The most baffling part is that they're doing stuff without actually using the word for what they're doing. They're saying rooster and kitty and all sorts of fun things, but that 3-letter word is where the line is being drawn. So anyway, they do backdoor stuff, and then that's the end of the chapter. I'm all in favor of interventions to convince people to see that they're broken and that they need help, but there is honestly such a huge difference between, hey, I don't like your stink attitude, get some mental help maybe, and tying somebody up and forcing them to admit that they're in love with you, all while teasing them with sex and refusing to put out until they admit it. Like, what the Thanks for listening to my book, Snark, on YouTube. New videos are up every Monday, but stick around because I sometimes drop random videos on other days too. Just as a reminder, even if you can't financially support me, there are other ways to support me. The first is watching this video as well as all of my other videos. It's also important to like and subscribe. Finally, you can share this video with all of your friends so that they can help as well. If you're already caught up with all of my videos, you can go to Tumblr for my main book, Snarks, always free and updated every morning. And if you've already read all of my main snarks, then you can find even more snark on my Patreon. You can access it for $1 a month. Plus, you also get early access to my main Tumblr snark. Special thanks to Dawn, Phoebe, and Nikki for supporting me on Patreon already. If you want to hear your name in my video next week, either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Do you like my snarks so much that you want me to snark your writing? I do that too. For just $3 per chapter, I will tell you how awful that your writing is. But not to worry if you feel like you couldn't take the criticism. I also offer regular book editing as well. $3 for every 5,000 words. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms if you have further questions. If you want to read some of the things that I've written, you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have a slew of erotic short stories and now 2 full-length novels. I also sometimes run flash sales on my stories, and if you don't follow me on any social media, you might want to do so just so you can know when I might be offering more things for free. Links for everything will be posted below. See you next week, guys.